right, this is our safety and security audit report for Kim Calvary with Stephen F. Austin University for superintendent certification. With me, I have Chad Wilhelm. He is our director of safety and security. I have our superintendent, Scott Kalos. So guys, if y'all will first open up, we're going to talk about our individual report. So when we had our safety audit, the consultant, these are the list of his observations as well as some of the interviews that he took place, that he observed when he was there. So the first one is our exterior elements on your left-hand side. One of the things that he did point out as improvements from last time we were there is how we have made signs on all of our exterior doors, because as you know, my building has several exterior doors, and so when he was previously here 2 years ago, we didn't really have clear signage as to how parents should get into the building, so he did make note of that. He also noted our new signs that we've included about the Guardian program, things like that. He indicated how there's no perimeter fencing, which is, we've talked about that before, that's a huge area. He also noticed while he was there how we do have community members that will cut through our property, like especially in between our cafeteria and our core building. There's that sidewalk there, and there are community people that do cut through there, so that was an area of concern. If you turn the page, at the top there is a trip hazard on our front porch. We did have it repainted, but it is where the concrete is unlevel, so that was noted. He did notice that there were no covered walkways around, and one thing he talked about was limited lighting, and particularly in our parking lots. I don't know, do we have, I know high school parking lot is very well lit because of usage, but we don't really have a lot of lighting in our parking lot. Is that something that is needed at a school not with 5th and 6th graders, or?
Well, I think the main thing is you would want lighting for your staff, for your staff parks for sure, because you're not gonna have students driving to school, so.
Right.
The main concern would be for your staff.
Cause on that back side, particularly by the nurses, by the nurses area, there's no lighting back there. Yeah.
The problem is the infrastructure in that school. It's pretty tough to start wiring up exterior lights with our current electrical system. When you start looking at panels and stuff, especially in that, I think you call it the East Wing building, I mean, you gotta have enough juice to push those exterior lights, and sometimes, that's a challenge for sure, trying to get extra lighting back there.
How many staff do you have parked back there by the nurse's office?
There's probably 10 to 15.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, there's 10 to 15 range every day.
I'd say probably closer to 15 to.
And a lot of that staff back there is the staff that comes and goes all day. That's kind of where they like to park. So your OTs and PTs and some of those people, their speech, they're in and out through there, which causes some conflict, because that's also where the kids are going to the playground, and that's,
And the gym.
You got pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic. And so it always makes me nervous parking in the front of a school and making sure kids aren't around my vehicle. But, over there, you get around the back of the school, you've got to be extra careful with those kiddos, because you're sharing those areas with vehicles.
And sometimes too, if a child gets sick, since the nurse is out there, parents just pull straight there, and she's got a sign-out sheet there. So sometimes you do have parents coming and going, in that
From
area.
the nurse's office, and you don't even know they're on campus.
Right. She has their signage stuff back there. Another one that he brought up was there's that fence between the main building and the cafeteria. There's no gate though. So if there was ever, a situation that kind of traps you, the only other fence is outside the core around the AC unit, but the gate's broken. It won't latch. So he brought that up. Apparently you're supposed to have a full functioning latch. He noted how the south side of the campus is open to traffic and there's no barriers. We've with our band hall being so far away, crossing back and forth, that was an area of concern. He did also bring up on the third page, the gym floor, which we recently abated it and removed all the tile and are getting a new one. But he was concerned about possible moisture penetration. I think that was from the discussion of the things that were kind of seeping up through the tile, which have now been removed.
Looks good in there. Have you been
yeah,
out there
it
since
does
it's
look
been
good.
concrete? There's some nice squares. I'm like, you just seal coat that and it'll look like a gym floor because it's left all those square lines.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
One thing he noted 2 years ago,
So, just for clarification,
Yes.
this is no longer a
Concern.
should not be a concern anymore. Or I don't feel like possible moisture penetration should be a concern, because after they abated the floor and removed all the tile, it doesn't look like there's any, leakage or anything. There doesn't seem to be moisture that's was under the tile.
Well, and they're putting if I understand, my conversation with Jeff was that they're putting a vapor barrier down
Yes.
before they put that new gym floor in, so.
Yeah. One thing he mentioned 2 years ago, and we still do not have, is he suggested some impact absorbing material under our playground, but I don't even know that you would really call that a playground, because it's really like chin-up bars and balance things, but there is nothing under it, so if the kid were to fall, there's no mulch,
don't
there's
use that.
not really. I mean, PE doesn't really utilize it, and so the only time it gets used is if a teacher every once in a while takes their students out for recess, but most kids just kind of stand around or, run around in the field area there, because there's really nothing playground for them to really get on. He did note that we have had some doors that were replaced, like the gym door was replaced, but then he was concerned about some of the doors, especially over there by our art room, that are pretty old. He felt like those, we should consider replacing those. And it's one where it has a padlock on it, which does not work, but it's a set of double doors. The right side door does not open or close at all, so it's only the left side door. But sometimes the kids have to to get it to open, you have to push the door in and then pull hard to get it open. So he suggested.
Those are exterior doors?
Yes, yeah. And then the last page, under the notes section, he noted how students must go outside during passing periods. One thing he brought up to me was the fact that we're having to use our staff to secure our students rather than having a facility or a building secure our students, even though we have, 6 to 8 staff members that go outside during passing periods. If something were to happen, and, that's just a pretty unsecure scenario. And again, he mentioned how students are walking down Lillian Street from the band hall before school even starts, because if they have a band instrument, they have to take it to the band hall a block away, then walk, and there's no crossing guard right there at Lillian, but there's all that traffic for primary and intermediate dropping off. Okay, so then the next packet, I'll just quickly kind of touch on some things. The next page was our access evaluation. He did note that Mr. Robertson, during passing periods, the consultant and the other Region 10 gentleman that was with him, Mr. Robertson made it a point to walk up to them to check their badges while they were there, so he did like that. He can tell our staff have been trained on safety procedures. The next packet is our interior elements, and here's one thing that he asked me that I don't feel like we've had a clear directive on, was number 4, if classroom doors are kept locked even when no one is in the room. Because the protocol is you keep them locked and closed when you're inside the room, but when teachers are gone to lunch or teachers are on conference period, what is the expectation that we need to have set? Does that matter?
I'd say they need to stay locked.
Stay locked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Less places to hide when doors are locked.
Yeah. Also, some of our exit signs, which I had never even thought to check this, but some of our exit signs inside the building are not illuminated. Like the lighting does not work.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maintenance ever checks those things, or if that's something I'm supposed to keep a check on, but there were a few in the east wing especially. And then on page 3 of that review, he did note that our PA system was very dated and could use an upgrade, especially with the communication in our classrooms. Chad, have you ever seen how our teachers in the classroom call? Oh,
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
phone, but you can't
Mhm.
speak through the phone.
Yeah, hang up and call
Yes.
back, hang up and call
Right,
back, yep.
so that was an area of concern there. Okay, the next one is our maintenance work order issues. All he put in there was about our cafeteria and how we have severe foundation displacement in the back part of the cafeteria, which we know that. I was under the impression from a year or two ago that we were not supposed to be putting people in the back of the cafeteria. Like it was okay to be in the front of the cafeteria, but we should not really put students in that back area. But when Jeff looked into that some more, it just says they shouldn't use that back entrance door because there's such a gap. But, so apparently we can use it if we needed to for overflow. So for like Thanksgiving lunch, we're talking about having to put all of our parents back there because we don't have enough room in the front.
Mhm.
So it'll just need to be, cleaned up back there because they were using it as some storage. The next packet is my administrator interview. The only thing I would like to point out is the very bottom of page 3, top of page 4, when he asked my concerns. I'm concerned because we do have so many entrances on our campuses, and so many detached buildings. I know there's really nothing I can do about that, but that does worry me, especially since I have to open the doors during passing periods. And then the process to close those doors, if something happened, I timed it, when I had to turn them on and turn them off for this last holiday, and it was about 22 minutes to shut my doors down. And the fact that there's no vestibule, which in the report, you'll see he did do a recommendation for how to maybe do a vestibule. The next packet is the nurse's interview. Everything was great. Tammy wasn't actually there that day because her son had had a neck injury the night before. But in her interview packet that she left, she did point out PE injuries, and a lot of that though is due to the floor, so that should be, pretty much solved. And then she feels like there is a lack of communication from parents on student medical concerns. So since she is the district nurse, I don't know if she's voiced any concerns about that to y'all, but I think she feels like she doesn't feel like she's got a lot of communication district-wide, I guess, with parents on proper medication procedures. And I mean, it is if you have a doctor's, kids that take it all the time. But for some of our students that they have headache medicine that they take every once in a while, or, she's had some who, well, I'll just keep it in my backpack, and, I don't know that.
So is she thinking about developing a process by which to streamline that? Like, does she have a solution to that?
She
just saying that?
I think
she
she's
thinks
just saying
we
that
need to
we
work
need
on
to
it?
work on that. And, even with, letting, I know she's had instances where students have taken their cell phone to the bathroom, called my parent, I'm sick, I need to, go ahead and come home, and then, so that's been another issue where she's left out of the loop, and, another, I guess, disconnect of parent communication on what are the proper procedures, when your kid doesn't feel good. Because at my age, 5th and 6th graders, they have cell phones, they're not supposed to have them, but they do go in the, bathroom and call, but that and the medication. Office staff, I will tell you, I brought in my secretary that is new, and I was a little nervous about that. But I kind of wanted to test her and see, since we have really been working this year on safety, SRPs and things like that. He said she did a great job. She seemed to be, very well trained. He did really like that we had that big monitor with our exterior cameras, that she can see. She can't see our interior cameras. She can only see our exterior cameras. There are a lot of blind spots though on those interior cameras that I would
Would you
like to
want
talk
her to
about.
see all the interior? Would you want her to see all the cameras on the campus?
She's really good about constantly looking and seeing things, so it wouldn't bother me if she had that, because we don't have, I think our interior cameras, I think there's only 9.
Yeah, there's not very many.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
And then the last one is the teacher interview packet. On the second page, they did bring up how they feel like lighting in the parking lots is limited, so if they are up, you know, working late, even off the back porch area, it's a very, very dim light. So if you're kind of on the edge of the building, you know, Miss Lindsay pointed out, it can be kind of, you know, kind of scary. Their concerns at the very bottom, no secure boundaries between the public and students going to and from lunch. They are concerned with the PA system and the walkway, and then they talked about uninvited visitors entering campus, which I don't know if they're talking about the ones that walk around, because I feel like we've done a really good job of putting systems in place on our campuses where,
I would assume that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
so.
okay, then the next one, the report on the other side is, his overall report. So the first few pages, he just kind of gives some information. He does, on his findings, again, he does continue to bring up the fencing, that there's too much openness to our campus. I mean, I don't know what the solution is to that. I don't even know that our campus really, is fencing even possible? A possible solution?
It's possible, yeah.
Well, so the south side of the building is so close to the roadway that we would have some issues with city code on fencing some of that. I mean, in essence, the back of your school, the only thing that separates the back of your school and the roadway is parking spots. That's the buffer, and that's all
Yeah.
you have back there. But the day that you put in.
But your fences could run into the buildings, right?
Yes, they could run into the building, but then you take away parking, valuable parking too. So, you know, you're kind of,
Yeah, cause that would limit me to the front or to right there along the back porch.
and then you have kids exit the back of the school, going to the band hall, they would have to exit,
Oh, yeah.
you know, through the south end of the school instead of over there on the east side.
Because if you put up a fence, are you allowed to put up gates? But if you put up gates, then they have to remain locked,
They gotta stay locked.
so.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
buses,
that's some-
Challenges with your kids getting.
Yeah. and the buses pull in that parking lot. Okay. Another one that he, indicated was the interior emergency lighting, which we talked about there was also one that I don't even know if we still use it. It's kind of in the east wing in between the restrooms, and it's almost like lights, like 2 lights that come out, but there's a cord that hangs down.
Yeah, it wasn't plugged in today when we were
No,
over there.
and so if I do plug it in, for some reason, there's a reason why it doesn't stay plugged in, and I can't remember what that reason is. But, so it's a plug that just hangs down with an outlet right there, so I probably need to, I guess, have it taken down, because,
It's an old emergency light. It may just stay on, and that's why.
no,
they
because
plug
I
it.
plug it in sometimes, and I put that little blue, there's like a little cubicle thing where they put their backpacks and stuff, and so. So I don't know what that is. Again, staff members indicated very limited lighting in the parking lots at night. Okay, the next page, he did, you know, find some good things. The second bullet is how we've created an ISD police force, and employed a chief of police and director of security. He noted how we have put the Guardian program in place and thought that was a good thing. He did like how we have our, car card readers now, and that would be at the main entrance, and then one at the back for students. And again, he loved how the system was monitored there by the receptionist that sits there. He noted how all glass main entrance has been laminated with the film that we put on, the shatterproof film. After his last visit, we did put exterior classroom numbers on those windows that face outside, so if there was an emergency, emergency responders would know when we're talking what classrooms. The Raptor system, which we are again having problems with ours, by the way, it's not working. The Raptor system, how we're utilizing that. Again, how the receptionist monitors the phone calling in, and how she makes sure before she lets anyone into the building, she asks them, they have to, have their ID, to show their ID when they come into the building. The teachers all reported, and the office staff, they called it substantial training they've received on our safety response protocol procedures. And how he did note how we have those little posters up with the lockout, lockdown. Our substitute folders, I don't know if the other campuses do this, but when we have a sub, they get a folder from the office, and it's got all of our fire drill procedures, lockdown procedure, all those safety things as well. So he liked that. The next page, the third bullet, all teachers indicated there were emergency operation procedures in their rooms for quick access to critical emergency instructions. They all had their detailed emergency procedures in their handbook, so, even though I know we've kind of been changing some things and putting some things in place, the teachers were able to, be confident about the things, and they weren't unsure at all. He said they didn't hesitate at all about, no, we lock our door, we don't cover our window, we do a red card here, we don't do a red card there. Now, here's the recommendations, and so I kind of wanted to compare these to what he had last year. So again, same thing from last year to this year. He has the parameter of the school. Last year he did consider the exterior windows, put in the room number, so we did that. He did want us to think about adding a vestibule, and he suggested an installation of a second set of doors at that main entrance too, so that kids are no longer having to, leave the east wing, come outside, and come back in. If there would be a way to transform my office into a, yeah. I don't know monetarily. Is that, I know we need it for safety features, but is that, I know we've done it on the other campuses. What are the thoughts on my campus, putting a vestibule in there, or something of some sort?
And now you're saying a vestibule at the entrance, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's something that we could definitely consider, yeah. I don't think it would be that difficult to do you, Chad?
No, and it's not extremely expensive to put the vestibule wall there. I think where we run into some expenses is if we added, in essence, a hallway through her office and go through a cinder block or brick wall. The concern there is gonna be that wing, the ceilings and everything are a lot lower than the main campus. And could you cut a hole through that wall? Is it a load-bearing wall? Because that used to be an exterior wall.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if we could, in essence, just cut a hole and make a hallway through there. It may be something a lot more difficult. So,
Because I think if you try to take the front porch area and basically enclose all of that, that's way more money than I think needs to be.
well, and you're talking about band-aiding a building that doesn't really have a whole lot of life left
Right.
in it. So, you get to a point where, you can do some things to try to get by, but how much do you spend on a building that longevity-wise, it's very possible that we won't be in that building. So how much do you spend?
Well, and how long does it take? Well, I know the high school did it in the summer, but how long does a project like that really take? Is that something that could be done quickly, cost efficiently?
In a vestibule?
Yeah.
Vestible's easy,
You
yeah,
can do that over the summer,
yeah.
easily.
that's-
And it's not that unreasonable
No, I
cost wise.
don't think it would be.
Probably under,
Because
under
then-
10 grade.
Then the other issue is, you know, in that breezeway right now, it's one-way traffic. So figuring out a way for traffic control too, where now you have that whole main building, east wing, all using that one.
Mhm.
Hallway area.
Yeah.
Okay,
On the next page, he said, consider discontinuing to allow students to walk to and from the band hall and work with the transportation department to operate daily shuttles as needed. Which we do have one of our band directors that does have a bus driver's license that uses it when we, you know, when it's raining. But a lot of these kids take their instruments back and forth with them, so that's getting the instruments on the bus, getting all their stuff on the bus. I just,
So I thought you said earlier that they drop them off in the morning.
like if it's a big
tuba, they drop them off on Monday mornings because they take the tubas home on the weekend. So their parents pick them up from the band hall Friday afternoon and then drop the tuba back off Monday morning, and then the kids will walk over. I don't know that it's every morning but like the trumpets and the French horns and the clarinet, they're carrying those with them all day.
But those aren't real big
Instruments, right? How
no
would that
French
be?
horn
So
though.
it's probably,
Yeah, in the case.
I mean, it can get on and off the bus.
it's just
Yeah,
cumbersome.
I like the idea of shuttling.
To
You
be
do.
honest, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a little inconvenient,
Yeah.
You know, I get it, it's gonna be a little inconvenient, but
Mm-hmm.
if it makes our kids a little
bit safer, is
Mhm.
is it worth that, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it absolutely is. Is it in every, do kids go to the band hall every single period?
Just the last 3 periods.
Just like, so you, in essence, you would only have to run the bus for 3 periods, but then, and then that person can roll into a normal bus route.
Well,
However,
we have extra buses that aren't on routes.
Mhm. Like that bus
That
that's
sits by the band hall, that sits there for Mr. McCoy to use.
if needed when it's raining.
Hmm.
The routes will be an issue.
so in essence, you could take that bus and park it close to the school, and the kids load out of the school right into the bus, and the
Mhm.
staff members in direct line of sight with all the kids the whole time they're on the bus. He takes them down, unloads them, goes in, has his class, and then loads them back up and brings them back.
There's a bus over there every day right now, Kim? or-
Mm-hmm. Right there, parked outside of food services.
Oh, yeah, in that
Mm-hmm. That
fenced area?
located. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what he uses
Mhm.
when it rains.
Mm-hmm.
Another bullet, which I hadn't really thought about this, consider certification of additional staff members with CPR and first aid skills. Do we have anything in place about a minimum number of?
Employees on campus that should be CPR and first aid certified.
No, and I've talked a little bit with the nurse about CPR, first aid, and stop the bleed training. So I think it's something that we're looking at in the future, but I don't think that we have a real strong process on making sure that that's happening. One of the easy things for us to do is offer some of those classes during the summer months and count as, you know, continuing ed classes, but also, you know, puts more people out there, and that's, you know, especially CPR, that's a great skill for anybody to know in case they're in a situation where you're all they got.
Mm-hmm.
But we are looking at CPR training, first aid, skills training, as well as some stop the bleed training is
Well, I
That's
know
part of
Jennifer Reynolds
At high school, she's CPR instructor
certified. She's done some classes.
Another one was working with the technology department to consider replacing current classroom intercom system. Because he feels like it does not allow for quick contact, because if they hang that phone up too quickly, the office can't see, the light doesn't stay illuminated, so they can't see, you know, so if there were an emergency. Also, adding additional exterior cameras, but I feel like we need additional interior cameras as well. There's a lot of blind spots in my hallways. And then considers installing large video surveillance monitors, which we have that one, but I think he was talking about interior cameras too for the receptionist.
To view. And then
That last bullet, which we're kind of in the process of doing, is our emergency management team. one of the things that he asked us was, did we,
And I was the last
campus, he asked, but I think he was kind of alluding to, do we have individualized emergency plans, or is it more of a kind of district-wide plan right now? And I said, well, I feel like right now it's more district-wide, but we are making it, we're all working on campus-specific ones. Now, Chad, I know we talked about this in our training the other day, but I would kind of like some guidelines as far as, these are the things you need to make sure these are things you have to have in your plan. Because when I sit down and think about it, I don't always think of it from the perspective that you're used to.
Okay.
And then that last page, is discussed with the district level administration establishment of a district safety coordinator. Is that you?
That would be me, I think.
Okay.
The boss designates who that is, and I'm guessing
Okay.
he's probably gonna.
As far as overseeing safety,
Safety procedures and things like that.
Yes.
That's it.
That would be
it's
me.
you.
Okay, so compared to what we had 2 years ago, we have a lot more recommendations this year than we had 2 years ago. But I think we also had last time it was, just a few bullet points. But I think part of that is because he sees the direction we're going in, and he's like, don't stop now, keep tacking on. But then I also looked at, we had several things that he did recommend last time that we have already, taken care of, especially in safety and security. So I think we're doing a good job. Now, Dr. Kellis, I don't know, is this your first time to look at the report, or have you looked at
Yeah,
it?
this is the first time I've seen it.
Okay, Chad, I know you looked at it. Do you have any, additional insights?
Well, we presented some of this information, or I presented some pieces of this information to a facilities group meeting where we were discussing some of the challenges in the middle school and how we see the function of the middle school moving forward. I think the consensus with that group was, at some point, we're probably going to vacate the middle school.
Mm-hmm.
We may resource that to something that's not an educational campus, but, I think overall, as a staff, you as a principal and the staff on that campus is doing the best that you can do with what you have.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to continue to work towards trying to keep that building safe. And for now, it's heavy staff participation. We gotta
Yeah.
continue to maintain staff participation over there. That's what's gonna keep our kiddos safe. We don't have a whole lot of facility infrastructure that does some of those things for us, cameras and
Mhm.
monitors and, it's a bad, situation when we can't easily, cure some of the challenges, so, but I appreciate his critique, because I think it helps the narrative that I've been talking through with school board members and superintendents on, these are some things that we need to look at addressing if we're gonna be if we're staying long-term in this building. I think the consensus is we've only got a limited amount of time left in that building before it's to the point where we've got to make a change, so.
Do you have any insight?
Yeah,
I would agree.
the middle school campus is our biggest concern when it comes to safety and security of our students and staff, and so we need to figure out, long-term what our plan is. If our plan is to keep students on that campus, then we've got to do some major work to make it safer and secure. But if the plan is to move students off of that campus, then we've got to be smart in our use of money, right?
Right.
Over these next 2 or 3 years, however much longer those students are going to be on there. We want to do things to continue to keep them safe and secure, and even improve in that area. But at the same time, you don't want to throw a whole lot of money into it. That's just wasted in the long run. And this is taxpayer money, right?
Right.
So we've got to use it wisely.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.